That's the one thing I love about branding in a data center now, because I think 20 years ago, we wouldn't brand what a data center was. You wouldn't hear data center news. Like everything was very internal, very secretive. But now we're part of the community. We're helping the community in some ways, and we want to brand ourselves and showcase. And now you see all of these gray buildings on the side of the highways that you just were always curious what they were, and now you drive past and they have beautiful logos on them, branding them, saying like, no, we're a data center, we're a powerful infrastructure, we're critical, and we're connecting the world. Hi, I'm Emily Newman, PR Marketing Manager here at NJFX, and you're listening to the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Hi, it's Joshua Feinberg from the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast, and I'm thrilled to have a very special guest joining me here today. I'm welcoming Emily Newman, who is the Marketing and PR Manager at NJFX in New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me, Joshua. I'm very excited to be a part of this podcast, part of these episode season, and just learn a little bit more and listen in and be a part of this.
Well, that's awesome. I think the first place to start is, could you walk me through a little bit of your background on how you ended up in your current role leading marketing for NJFX in the colocation kind of data center operator space? Was this something that you thought about when you were younger, earlier on in college and teens, kind of formative years in the early stages of your career, or did it just kind of happen accidentally along the way?
Definitely accidentally. I did not dream of working in a data center, let alone didn't even know what a data center was. My aspirations growing up always changed professionally. I think I always stayed on the creative side. I was not very technical. I wasn't a math wizard. I was very creative. I was very artsy, very into technology, but on a graphic design side, not building computers or hardware or anything like that. And finding your niche and taking all these different experiences brought me to NJFX. Those experiences came from all different facets of different industries, when it came to beauty, to lifestyle, to fashion. I even went into like retail for a little bit on the corporate side. So definitely got an expansive amount of experience that led me to NJFX. Applying to NJFX was definitely being very open-minded. I wasn't really sure what a data center was, let alone what a cable landing station was, or what the word colocation really meant. But I was just very open-minded, because you could take your marketing strategy and your skill sets and apply it to that messaging. That fundamental base of marketing applies to every job, to every industry. It's just now turning that marketing niche into what the company is asking for, what their messaging is, and applying it there. So that's kind of how I just brought it into NJFX, and I've been in for 2 years, and I'm very happy to not look back on it.
It's an interesting career path and trajectory, and I see across the different client-facing roles in this industry, like across sales and marketing and customer success and product and channel partnerships, it seems like leadership teams are a lot more open to bringing in someone from outside of the industry and marketing roles than just about anywhere else. And it brings a lot of really great opportunities, because you bring a perspective that may not be like, there's so much of this industry that goes around with people looking at other companies in this space and thinking that they have all of the answers. When you come in kind of with a blank slate and you're looking more at the addressable market and the ideal client profile and the buyer persona and everything, it opens up so many more possibilities. The challenge is just, like you said, the ramp time.
Right. No, definitely. I mean, seeing the marketing in this industry, it's very vast between everyone. So like I'm an internal, it's just me and the team. But then you could hire outsources that are part of the industry. They might be industry related PR firms, or they might not be related to our industry at all. So it comes in all different forms. As long as you apply that information, I think you could have a really successful story and a really successful company.
And your timing too of entering this industry just about 2 years ago, it was like within months of the OpenAI going from being a hidden behind the scenes thing to all of a sudden ChatGPT being unleashed on the world, and within 6 months realizing the implications of what it was going to do to the data center industry.
I mean, the growth that it's had over the past year has been exponential. It's insane. Like everywhere you turn, it's AI related. I kind of came in at a really interesting time because actually the pandemic was finally easing on restrictions. Flying was coming back, traveling was there. So I got to see a lot of people come back and socialize with each other and connect on a face-to-face level. And now going into a year, everybody's getting comfortable again. We're getting back into the groove of things, working on what these hybrid work solutions are. And now we're finally back into the groove. It's like, nope, AI is now taking over control. And it was just a huge boom. I mean, ChatGPT was one of the first AI platforms that came out and was open to the public, and is still pretty reliable to this day, and is now partnering with the Metas and Amazons of the world. So it definitely is a very powerful tool to use. And it definitely is booming our industry. I mean, even in the data center space, you see it all over the news now is what is the US doing for the data center? What's this power consumption happening within data centers with this AI demand? So it's definitely been very impactful to the industry and to NJFX.
Yeah, there's for sure this element now where a lot more people have heard of data centers than outside of the IT industry than they would have 5 years. If you think about if you were at a family barbecue or birthday party or something like that 5 or 10 years ago, the likelihood of somebody that doesn't work in IT knowing what a data center was pretty low. They might have known a little bit about cloud, especially if they work in a company where they're running SaaS applications, but the likelihood of someone being able to kind of articulate even at like an elementary school age, like what a data center actually is and what it does was pretty low. Now, all of a sudden, it's not just the big REITs that are getting attention on Bloomberg and CNBC and all the mainstream media. It's this whole industry, this groundswell, and now utility power, grid power becoming a big issue as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a serious issue. That's the one thing I love about branding in a data center now, because I think 20 years ago, we wouldn't brand what a data center was. You wouldn't hear data center news. Like everything was very internal, very secretive. But now it's, no, we're part of the community. We're helping the community in some ways. And we want to brand ourselves and showcase. And now you see all of these great buildings on the side of the highways that you just were always curious what they were. And now you drive past and they have beautiful logos on them, branding them, saying like, no, we're a data center. We're a powerful infrastructure. We're critical, and we're connecting the world in some way. So it's kind of a beautiful thing, but it's booming. It's definitely a booming moment right now for us.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, the community and the legislators have become this whole other category of stakeholders, because when there was plenty of grid power to go around, you didn't need to convince the community that it was worth building all of this additional grid capacity. Now there is, and now there's land issues, and you're actually in a really interesting location because New York is considered one of the top 5 or 6 markets in the US, but you're just a little bit outside of that. But because of that, you have unique advantages as well.
Correct. Yeah. So we're about 60 miles away from New York City, but are still able to access that metro area without ease. Like all of our customers, it just gives it a very diverse architectural route for all of our customers to access New York, or even to go to Ashburn or down to Virginia Beach. We're just another diverse POP for the network architecture for these carriers.
From a business continuity and disaster recovery, I don't know the exact definition of how many miles you have to be to have that redundancy, but it seems like being 50, 60 miles outside of Essex and Hudson and Manhattan, that it probably gives. And one, it's close enough that anyone that's in that works in that area can be down to your location in an hour. But it's far enough away that it probably insulates a little bit from some of that risk.
Yeah, we used to say we're right outside the blast zone, but I kind of got rid of that because I was like, that sounds very.
It's too 9/11-ish, yeah.
Very, yeah. So we're just no, we're a diversity play. We're here just in case something does happen, something like a Sandy storm that comes again. We're that backup plan. We're that eliminating point of failure for your network. That's really our play. And we like to say, like, we are above sea level. So if anything does come, because we are right there at the shore, but we are at a higher height in the state where we are secure from any flooding, and we're Hurricane 5 resistant. We have 2 indoor generators with a substation on site. Like, we are definitely prepared for any catastrophe that happens, and we're partnered with a lot of like our local governments and federal governments. So we have a program partnership with them as well. So we have on-site fuel that will come to us if needed, just to keep those precautions ahead. We like to call them blue sky planning. I don't know if you saw my post yesterday. We had the K9 units of New Jersey come into our facility and do test runs, and they planted ammunition and narcotics around our facility to see how the dogs would test in a data center environment, because all of the lights are flickering, the fans are blowing. There's a lot of elements that happen where the sight and smells to the dogs that are trying to find these materials might be a little taken away from them. So we like to do little runs with them and make sure that the police force understands, that we're a critical infrastructure and how to properly go about going into a data center without harming equipment or anything like that, because this is the internet that we're talking about here. We don't want anybody unplugging anything. So
yeah, there's all these risks that when you really, because this is what keeps IT managers and CTOs up at night, is there's natural disasters. There's, unfortunately, we live in a world where terrorism is certainly an issue to contend with. And for sure, these are all considerations. And it's not the fun part of building a marketing or go to market or sales support or anything like that. But yeah, for sure, there's definitely a certain kind of IT professional, risk management professional that cares intensely about these issues.
Definitely.
On a more pleasant note, you're 2 years into this now. There's a lot of people in this industry that feel like they've been around forever, like going back decades. But for sure, for someone that's brand new to this space or is considering working in anything related to critical facilities or telecommunications or digital infrastructure, if someone sat down and said, Emily, can we grab a cup of coffee or have lunch? And they were maybe in high school, they're trying to figure out what they want to do when they major in college. What advice would you give to someone that's maybe like yourself, that's not technical leaning? They don't think they want to go into engineering or software development or anything like that, but they're thinking about client-facing roles in a technology company. What kind of advice would you offer them to help them sort through whether this is something that they should pursue?
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like there's a few different ways to go about this. I think each person is very individual. For myself, I'm an opportunist. I like to see an option right in front of me and take it and see how it goes. You have to be open-minded. Take any opportunity that you have in front of you, and have a support team with you as well that you could run by and make sure, like, does this seem right? Does this role fit me? Ask yourself that question. Ask your support team that question. But I would definitely be very open-minded. Ask questions. Like, I can't express that enough. From my experiences, like I said, I have a pretty broad range between web development, graphic design, writing press releases and blogs, doing hosting events and coordinating venues and working with vendors. It's a large area, and you just have to pick and choose, and you might like one thing more than the other, but then just stick with that road. If you feel that like graphic design or finance is your niche, that's something you'd like to go into a little bit more, then follow that feeling. Take that gut feeling, go with it, and then maybe from there, like, you might seem like, okay, like, I really like this position that I'm in right now, I think I could excel, but maybe like the people or the atmosphere might clash a little bit. And that's okay. You could change your environments, but as long as you stick to your gut, ask those questions, look for those opportunities, and just trust yourself, I think is really the best advice I could give somebody, because I'm very proud of myself on being able to open my radius on and being able to find NJFX. I was very stuck in my ways of like, I want to work in New York City, and got a lot of discouragement when it came to applying to a lot of positions, and decided that I just need to open my radius, be a little bit more open-minded, that my top job, my career that I'm looking for the rest of my life might not be in New York City right now in this moment, but you have to take your steps. You know, your first job isn't going to be your forever job. It might be, I don't know, but it's a possibility. But just taking those experiences from each of those positions will only set you up further into success.
That's a really interesting perspective, and there's inherent challenges and some inherent opportunities that you have being at a company where you're the whole marketing team. Because like what you just described in a data center operator that's got 500 employees and there's 6 or 8 people on the marketing team is 6 or 8 different jobs. So the cool part is you get to do a little bit of everything, and it's nearly impossible to get bored. The challenge is being able to be pretty good at those 6 or 8 different disciplines and blocking out the time on the calendar and making it all happen with really limited resources.
Right. No, I mean, having 7 hats in the office all day, every day is definitely a task. I love it. I wish I had a team to delegate to and to work with and collaborate on a marketing side. Like, I'm very happy with the team that I have now. I mean, they are my whole support. Like, they would not let me fail in anything. And I know if I do have any types of questions or concerns of myself or my work or my writing or whatever the case may be, like, I know I have such a strong team behind me that will give me any advice, any comments, anything that I need. And also to help me like prioritize, like what is my priority? Because a lot of the things, my priority might not be the company's best priority, because I have so many things that I need to make sure that our website's running and our social media is on time, and just working with our clients. And we're doing an event in October with some customers and sponsors, and just trying to keep those relationships going. But we're also like on a business side, I'm a huge support to the sales team and operations. So on top of my marketing initiatives, like I have to make sure that everything is aligning with my sales and operations as well. And sometimes that is a priority over what my messaging is for the week in the marketing. It might flip. So we might have things scheduled for the month, but within that month, 3 weeks might be different and change, because some news might drop, or something we're doing at NJFX happens and we want to share that before this, and we just push things back. And I think that's a really great thing about being a small company and just having one individual team member for each section, because we get to just talk and collaborate and make quick decisions fast and be able to do it, instead of that corporate bureaucratic, let's work up the chain, get this message going. Getting one draft might take like a month in some offices, while I could write a draft and have it done and have a final completion by end of day. So just like how it works is very different. I like the urgency. I like the fast pace. I don't mind the quick changes in my schedule. Like, I like those challenges and how to adjust to that. I think that just, makes you a stronger leader, a stronger person, than taking those skill sets and being able to share those moments with your colleagues or your interns or whoever you're working with, to show like, this is how I present myself, and this is how we're going to work hard and make sure that our messaging is strong and secure.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
Yeah, it's a great point. And yeah, the size of the company and the size of the team makes a huge difference, not only in how many different hats, how many different roles you have to take on, but the nature of who's really a great fit for that. Because I've seen over the years too, that people that have worked for huge companies that think it's going to be a walk in the park going to work for a relatively small company. And the reality is, if you're one of 300 salespeople for a huge company and the playbook is on version 117 and you have a ridiculous amount of support and the brand is incredibly well known globally, it is a completely different set of challenges than someone where they're building something that's relatively new, where they have to be really, really resourceful. I often liken this to having to be like the utility player on a baseball team who can at any given time get thrown into pitching, playing the infield, playing the outfield. If it's a minor league team, in between innings, they're going in the stand to sell soda. It rains, they're pulling the tarp out of the field. There's really, so yeah, that creates a lot of interesting challenges. And I'm curious how you've been able to navigate them over time without feeling a sense of stress or burnout, or feeling like the kind of managing expectations about what is possible for a company the size of NJFX.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can't express enough, like, my team is really the support that really helps me schedule my time and prioritize like what's on the agenda for today, or for the month, or for the quarter. Like I said, we kind of have like our set plan for what we want to post or say, or when it comes to like events, like those are like the usual posts. But then when anything else does come in, you really do have to sit with your team and talk about like, okay, like what are we doing? Because NJFX as a company for years have really not been saying we're a data center, we're a colocation, we're a connectivity hub, and we're a cable landing station. But with all of the developments with AI happening, and realizing like NJFX was built as a purpose-built data center. Like, we are a data center, we just never really want to call ourselves a data center. So just changing that whole shift of messaging on, and changing that to our social medias and our events and like everything that we do and say, even just talking right now through podcasts and going to conferences, like we have to shift our whole elevator pitch onto like who we are as a whole. And I can't do that without the team. Like I can't just prioritize and make posts and schedule. Like I can't, to an extent, I'd say. But for the most part, everything is a collaboration. And you can't really prioritize or set yourself for success without having that team by you. I would say that's really how you really manage yourself, is just making sure you're comfortable with yourself, and then you're comfortable with your team, and making sure that everything runs smooth.
Yeah, it's always a balancing act, because marketing by committee dilutes the punch and the specificity and the true differentiation. But at the same time, if you go into an all hands meeting and you pass around a 3x5 card to each person and says, do not say a word to each other, but I want you to each take 30 seconds, 90 seconds and write down on this card what NJFX does. Do you get 20 different answers, or are most people largely saying the same thing? And it's a challenge over time.
I mean, for the most part, I think NJFX before my time did really great on branding and PR and making themselves known to the data center market, even to the Subsea side and connectivity. So it's a time. It just takes time. There's a lot of momentum that brings into it.
Speaking of time and momentum and building a brand, I'm a big believer now that the brand is a lot more than just aesthetics. It's really everything that people are saying about your company when you're not in the room. And given that salespeople in any kind of B2B space are probably not in the room for a huge percentage of the sales cycle anymore with so much self-driven research. But you mentioned that you're working on this event coming up around AI. I'm curious if you can walk us through what went into planning this event, how you've worked with other companies externally to pull this together, what kind of stakeholders were involved internally, what kind of the promotion plan looked like, and how you're ultimately going to judge the success of the event after it's happened.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the works right now. So this is really exciting times, like all the conversations right now are based around AI. And as we mentioned, NJFX is now becoming a data center with AI enablement. And we're working with our partners, EXA Infrastructure, Bulk Infrastructure, and a new partner, Supermicro, on this event on bringing hardware connectivity, sustainability needs to your network. And it's been a really interesting time collaborating with these different companies because they come from all different sizes all around the world with all of their unique skills inside of themselves as a whole too is really interesting. I'm very grateful that I get to work and collaborate with other marketing teams, and I get to kind of lean on them and they get to lean on me when it comes to setting the agenda and securing our vendors and getting speakers and figuring out what our presentation topics are going to be. Like there's so many little tiny things that go into planning. I think I'm very grateful I have a great co-sponsors with me and a great team, and we have weekly calls to make sure that we're on top of everything. I think that's extremely important, is to having the communication. If we didn't have weekly calls or at least emailing each other every week about, okay, like here's the audience list, this is my section of what we're going to do for this is the marketing materials that we're going to supply this, like there's so many things in between, and you just don't want to overlap, or you don't want to repeat yourself, or you just want to make sure that there's a smooth flow. And if there's a smooth flow in communication, I 100% believe there'll be a smooth event in as well. It does take time. I mean, we're still in the efforts and the works of this event, but we're coming into where we're now starting to market this event. Now that we have the location secure, our speakers secure, our agenda is set, that I think that was really like the main struggle. And now the second is getting the audience. It's very specific on who we want to showcase, and that's another conversation you need to have too with all of your sponsors, is who is the audience? Who do you want in the room? Because you could have 100 people in the room, but only one person might be a customer of yours, and you want to have a higher ROI when it comes to this event, and you want to make sure that whoever you're inviting to will get something out of this. So we're making this a very educational event where we're applying data center infrastructure, connectivity, and hardware to the financial market. So it should be a really interesting event. I'm very excited to be working with these companies because they are huge players in the field. And yeah, I'm looking forward. And it's right here in New York City, so it's like right in the backyard. So it's nice, a nice familiar area too. So it's a good time.
Yeah, it ups I was going to ask if you're hosting just a small on-site event at NJFX or hosting at an external location, but you answered my question. Yeah, it's really an interesting balancing act, because you've gone to enough events where you said, gee, wouldn't it be really cool if we had an event where we controlled the agenda, we got to cherry pick who we wanted to be on the invite and the attendee list and the speaker list, and we didn't have to compete for attention with 50 other speakers and 100 different exhibitors. It is awesome, but it is an awesome amount of work as well.
It is. And that's why I'm very grateful that I have such a supportive team, and even my external teams, with Bulk, Supermicro, and EXA, they've also been very hands-on and supportive. And you can't have a successful event without having successful teams with you.
I always say too, when you're planning any kind of event, is to think about what the audience, defining who the buyer persona is and maybe who the primary and the secondary is, so you can get a lot more clarity. Even when people are considering exhibiting or speaking, I always tell them to pull the media kit from last year, get the prospectus from this year, and see if at least it's not like most of these events companies are typically not having external auditing of this, but at least there's self-reported demographics, the industries, the company sizes, and the job titles, how well it lines up to someone's ideal client profile, because that is often very, very telling as to who the typical attendee is going to be in an event. When you're hosting the event, you get to pick exactly that. You know exactly if you're going to sit and go in and do searches in LinkedIn Sales Navigator or run ads on LinkedIn or something like that. You know exactly, you can manually build the company list and say, oh, these are 800 companies that we ought to invite people from. And if we got representatives coming from 10 or 20% of them, we'd consider it successful if they're in these job roles or at a certain seniority or something. It's a super cool thing, but yes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of lead time. And especially the first time through, there's so much learning curve and there's so much like building the processes and checklists.
There is. And that's why I keep repeating myself, but I'm very grateful that I have this team as well with me, because we all have our parts, you know, like I was in charge of doing all of the graphics, marketing, and setting the venue. I had Bulk help me set the agenda and get the speakers locked down. So we all had individual parts of responsibilities that we had to take, and you rely on each other. So you want to make sure that you're representing yourself and the company respectfully, and you want to showcase yourself at a high degree when you're working with these companies, because you want to work with them again. And I'm not going to be at NJFX forever, and keeping these relationships with them is so important to me. So I love continuously collaborating with companies. That way I could keep talking to the marketing teams and learn more about them and how they got into this industry too. That was like a huge part of one of the things I did for NJFX. I did the Luminaries in Telecom, which was interviewing, you know, industry leaders that have been in this market for a very long time, and no one's really interviewed them about their life and how they've gotten here and experienced it, and how they've changed this industry, and what impacts they've had and what impacts have been put on them. So I find it so interesting, especially like women too. Like I don't really talk to a lot of women on phone calls or even in conferences. So when I do get to see or talk to a female marketer on the call, like that's really exciting too. Because a lot of the marketing teams don't go to these conferences. Like it's all sales oriented. So it is really nice to catch up and see who's behind the scenes of who get the team to the event, set the marketing, and all of that fun jazz.
Yeah, it's interesting because in a lot of ways, even as a marketing team of one, when you start doing collaborations with other companies, you essentially start to build informal peers, which is great for bouncing ideas off of, especially if there's a healthy respect for the benefits of what each person is bringing to the table. Because as a small company, there's huge strengths, and as a large company, there's also huge strengths. One of the biggest strengths of the small company is you can move super fast. You don't need layers and layers of stuff. You can go to like your CEO and get approval in half hour if you needed to, whereas someone in a larger company, like it could take weeks. So the agility and everything makes an enormous difference. The challenge too with events also is, and the good part with having multiple partner vendors involved is you lessen some of the financial risk. But for once you graduate beyond hosting just a small breakfast seminar or lunch and learn, where you're hosting it at your own facility, where the cost is next to nothing.
Right.
That you don't need to do a lot of external advertising. Once you start going to hotels and convention centers, and all of a sudden these are 5, 6, in some cases on the large side, they can be 7-figure investments. So yeah, it can be a really, really big jump for a lot of companies. And because of that, there's big expectations, which adds to all of that as well.
No, I definitely feel the stress and the anticipation and the fiery passion that I have to get in this event like going and successful. I feel like what other conferences go with, and that's even like at a larger scale, you know, we're looking to get, you know, at least 30 people to attend, like a very intimate, small event. While, you know, you go to like the capacities of the world and there's at least 1,000 people in a room, and that can be very overwhelming. And I would definitely need a team for that. I don't know if I'd be able to control 1,000 people on my own, but I think I could do 30. That works for me.
You know, if I can give you some advice that I think will help you get even more mileage from the event, is put a freelance videographer in your budget for the event. You'd be amazed at how many cool things that you can do with the full and segments of it and shorts and everything for months and months and years long after that for repurposing. Plus, if you have any aspirations of repeating the same event next year, you'll have great content to be able to lay the groundwork for that. But yeah, educational events are awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know the videographer is definitely good advice. Yeah, and then we wanted to, like, I think that's what we're kind of sticking to, is just having is educational. We want to be informal but educational. We're doing a lot in this industry, and I think we've always kind of been a leader in this data center connectivity space, with the subsea cables that land right in our station. So this is just us kind of continuing that leading position of now going into AI infrastructure and educating the marketplace that AI is coming to New York City, to New Jersey, to the East Coast, to the United States. It is here, and it needs to have high density power somewhere, and that's where NJFX comes in to play. And you could put a node right into our facility and connect to the CoreWeaves and the Supermicros and the NVIDIAs of the world, and really expand your network in a new way.
So Emily, you're 2 years into this marketing leadership role with NJFX. What do you think the next 2 years, what do you think the future holds for this kind of role 2, 3, 4 years out from now? What do you think is going to stay the same? What do you think is going to change?
What we're doing right now with this AI boom is massive to our company. NJFX, we're a 2-story facility, so our second floor is really dedicated to our network carriers, and then our downstairs floor is now actually turning more into our AI infrastructure, where we're going to be having liquid cooling solutions upon request, depending on how high of a density cabinet you are looking for. I see a huge impact of what NJFX is going to be doing in the next 2 years. Not really sure where I'm gonna be. I'm with NJFX till the end, and I'm really excited to see how this will play out. And anything that comes our way, I'm just gonna take it with every opportunity, like I normally do, and hope that NJFX and this AI infrastructure becomes a huge success. There's a lot that is going into it, a lot of planning, a lot of logistics that need to make sure that this is really happening. And we have a very strong team that is making this secure for us, and working with partners like EXA and Bulk and Supermicro are just on the top of the chain of what is happening within our facility. Yeah, and I know a lot of data centers are now working on this. And the great thing about NJFX is that we already have the infrastructure in place, where you see a lot of new data centers being built today to withstand for the AI demand. But that's going to take years to come, while we're kind of already in that front door step of being enabled already. We have the connectivity standpoint already secure. Now it's just getting connectivity and edge AI to integrate with each other. And that's where I think we're really going to see a huge boom is the edge AI inference and connectivity coming in together.
Yeah, that's where I imagine you have a huge geographic advantage, just because there's tremendous population density, but tremendous competition when you go about an hour north of you, where you are, into the 5 boroughs, specifically Manhattan and North Jersey. But in Central Jersey, there's still huge population. At some point, there's going to be a lot more EVs. People are going to be experimenting a lot more with smart cities and AI, and latency matters a ton. That's where edge comes into play. It's really cool. One more thing I'm curious about is, you mentioned partnerships a few times, and it seems like you're doing a lot with collaborations. Do you channel partnerships? Is that something you also take the lead on, or do you work with somebody else internally who works with managed service providers and integrators, or is that just not something that NJFX has built out as part of its playbook yet?
Well, so it kind of, it depends. So my partnerships are more on like the marketing side. It comes to like events and PR. So any journalists, those are like more my partnerships. I do help Felix a lot, who's our general manager at NJFX on the sales side with his partnerships. His partnerships are more on the carrier side and carrier, wholesale, enterprise, financial, healthcare, you name it. Those are his partnerships. That's who he's working with. And then you go into our operations team and they have partnerships with all the vendors that come in, the people who working on our generators and the roofing, and then there are all the filters for all of the AC units and just little things like that. So we are huge on partnerships. I mean, I think partnerships make you even stronger as a company for both parties. And it's just a good way to collaborate and learn from each other and just expand your group a little bit more. So I think it's so important to have a partnership and to continue relationships within that partnership and make sure that it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you do butt heads, but overall, like you want to look and see like this partnership is going to be beneficial for myself and for the company, then I'm going to push forward for it and continue that momentum.
The great part too is when you're working with larger companies, a lot of their branding halo rubs off in terms of like light social proof. It gives enormous amounts of leverage without taking a lot of financial risk. But yeah, the challenge is when you're working with partners, they're not spending 40 hours a week just on NJFX. They're balancing everything else that they're doing. So yeah, it takes a village.
It definitely does. Yeah. But we have a good team. We're a small team, but we all have really good heads on our shoulders. That's what makes us really successful.
That's terrific. Emily, I really appreciate you sharing so generously about your experience in growing marketing and PR and branding at NJFX over the last couple of years and the cool projects and events and initiatives that you're working on right now. If someone wants to follow what you're working on or reach out to connect with you, is LinkedIn a great place for someone to reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the perfect spot to find me.
If somebody wants to keep up with what's going on at NJFX, the website the best place, or is there a preferred social channel?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us. You can follow NJFX on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And then we also have our website that will have all information needed.
Thank you, Emily. I again, really, really appreciate you taking the time to join me on the podcast. I've been speaking with Emily Newman, who is the marketing and PR manager at NJFX in New Jersey on the Jersey Shore. Thanks again, Emily. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joshua, for having me.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.